What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the Playbook Sports Podcast. This is Nate coming at you guys with my favorite and my least favorite or best, worst free agent signings so far for the 2024 NFL free agency period. Now, a ton of money has been thrown around at these guys, and you can just see obviously the jump in cap space available to teams this offseason has these people acting up and spending crazy money. So I'm going to get into, I think I have four of each, four of my favorite and four of my least favorite signings so far 1 week into free agency. Before we get into today's video, guys, I just want to give a special shout out to today's sponsors, starting with Goldfine and Bowles, lawyers for the injured. Personal injury, workers' compensation, those are their two things, but any sort of legal advice, they're the people to call. Give them a phone call, 309-673-5144. Tell them we sent you, okay? And I'd also like to shout out SeatGeek for sponsoring today's video as well. Use promo code PlaybookSports on their website to get $20 off your first purchase of $30 or more. Let's get back to the video. First up, one of my favorite signings is a pretty low-key signing. Marquise Hollywood Brown to Kansas City, 1 year, $7 million. I love this signing for Kansas City. Obviously needed to revamp that wide receiving core after all of the issues they had last year. Kadarius Toney couldn't catch a ball. Sky Moore could not show up. MVS did not show up. They had Rashee Rice and Travis Kelce, and they still won the Super Bowl. Hollywood Brown adds another element to their attack, though. He can actually catch the ball. Pretty good catch rate throughout his entire career. And he adds just a third level to it when you think about it. Kelce on the underneath, intermediate. Rashee Rice underneath, intermediate. Who's the deep threat? It was supposed to be Kadarius Toney and Sky Moore, and they can't catch a ball. Now you have one. You have one in Hollywood Brown, and you got him for a steal. And you look at the contracts these wide receivers are getting. This is a former first-round pick. He's 26 years old. 1 year prove-it deal with the Super Bowl champs and Patrick Mahomes. I love this signing for the Chiefs, and I love this signing for Hollywood Brown. If he plays well with Patrick Mahomes this year, he's going to line himself up for a huge contract next offseason. And then one of my least favorite signings, also wide receiver position, and I mentioned my dislike of this one when it happened on the first day of free agency a week ago. That's Calvin Ridley to Tennessee for 4 years, $92 million. That is a ton of cash, right? That's what, $23 million a year? I like Calvin Ridley. I think Calvin Ridley is a solid wide receiver. That's a ton of money. That is wide receiver one money right there. And I just don't know if he has that in him anymore. He's 29 years old. He has not been the same since he left Atlanta. He has not been the same since he was across from Julio Jones, demanding a ton of attention. Who's going to demand that attention in Tennessee? It's not DeAndre Hopkins. It's not Treylon Burks. He's going to be the one, and he's going to have some issues. He was solid in the Jags offense with Trevor Lawrence at quarterback and weapons galore, but now he's going to a place where Will Levis is a quarterback who is more of an unknown. Their rushing attack is two of the same guy in Tyjae Spears and Tony Pollard, who nearly made the hate list on this one. And I do think that this is hurt because they didn't want to give A.J. Brown 4 years at $25 million a year when he was, 25, 26 years old at the oldest, but they're comfortable giving it to Calvin Ridley. I don't like it. I don't like that. We'll see how it plays out. I could be wrong, but right now I do not like that signing. Just too much money for me. I don't know how I feel about the wide receiver signings in general. I'll get to more on them later. Next up, a good one. One of my favorite ones of the offseason, and if you thought I was going to go this whole time without mentioning a Dolphin, you were mistaken. Kendall Fuller to Miami. 2 years, $16.5 million. Great signing. Great signing. If you had told me going into this offseason that Kendall Fuller's total contract value was $16.5 million, I would say, man, someone paid him probably a little bit of an overpay for 1 year. But 1 year, $16.5 million, not terrible. Getting him for 2 seasons at that, $8.25 million a year, that's a great pickup. One of the scored extremely well per PFF. Take the grading for how you want. His defense was torched. That's not on him. Washington's defense was just terrible at all 3 levels, all across the board. That's not on Kendall Fuller. I think Kendall Fuller was really, really solid for Washington. Going to a place where he does not have to be the one, that's Jalen Ramsey, so he'll get probably the number 2 matchup in most games. I really think that's a good low-risk signing for Miami because it's cheap, and we fill the hole that was left by Xavier Howard being released and saved a ton of money, getting a player who performed better last year and is younger. Love that signing for Miami. And then worst, and this one is going to be controversial, I'm sure. I once again cannot say how much I love Christian Wilkins enough. Awesome player. Awesome player. I do not like the signing because of the money. 4 years, $110 million. And you could put Christian Wilkins too, insert team here, and I wouldn't like it because it's simply too much money. It's simply too much money for him. He is a great football player, a leader in the locker room, and he's very, very good at shutting down the run. I will miss him in Miami this year. But he is not the same caliber defensive tackle as Dexter Lawrence. He's not the same caliber defensive tackle as Quinnen Williams. And both of them will make at least $4.5 million less each season than Wilkins does. Wilkins got absolutely paid. And when you watch the film and you watch what Christian Wilkins did and you say, look, he's developing as a pass rusher, he had 9 sacks. No, almost all of them were the product of coverage and other guys getting pressure, forcing the quarterback to step up where Wilkins is at. It wasn't Wilkins being this game-wrecking defensive tackle going through double teams and getting a sack. That's just not him. He was maybe is the best run-stuffing defensive tackle in the NFL, but man, $27.5 million a year at that is so expensive. And you look at the Raiders. That team in general is not going to compete this year. They don't have a quarterback. They just don't have the pieces to compete this year. You're paying a defensive tackle $27.5 million a year. You need him to be a game-changing player. He's not. He's not Chris Jones. He's not Aaron Donald. He's not Dexter Lawrence. He's not Quinnen Williams. He's not going to live up to that, and the Raiders are going to end up regretting that contract. I really think that they could have used this money split like 3 ways and paid solid players, solid contributors, and come out of it paying the same amount of money this year that they're going to pay Christian Wilkins. Again, I love Christian Wilkins. Not at that price tag. Absolutely not. Another signing I really liked was Miami's Jerome Baker signing with Seattle. Also, 1 year, $7 million. Seattle lost all of their middle linebackers. Bobby Wagner, Jordan Brooks signed with Miami. Devin Bush, I think he's still available in free agency, so they could bring him back. Seattle just said, all right, you take Jordan Brooks, we'll take Jerome Baker. Fair enough. And it's way discounted. 1 year, $7 million for Baker is a fantastic deal for them. I don't know why we didn't pay him that or offer that to him. In a Mike McDonald defense as well, I think Baker's going to dominate. Assuming he's healthy, look out for 140 to 150 tackles. And for only $7 million, that's a fantastic deal. I really like the way he was growing in the defense last year. He's got great sideline-to-sideline speed, decent in coverage, still young, very, very good middle linebacker. I think he'll play that Roquan Smith type role in Seattle. And by the end of the year, we may be talking about him as one of the best middle linebackers in football. I really think in that scheme, he can absolutely thrive. Love that signing by Seattle. That was a very, very smart signing by them. Next up, another one I mentioned that I did not like when it first happened. It's Gabe Davis to Jacksonville. 3 years, $39 million. I just don't get it. He's the most boom or bust wide receiver I've seen in so long. Like I said in the last video I put out, he's either, he had 4 games where he had 50 yards. That's it. That's not that impressive in and of itself. And then he had 5 games where he didn't have a single catch. 0 for 0. You cannot pay that $13 million a year. You simply can't pay that. I don't know what you think you're seeing. If Josh Allen can't get greatness out of him, I am a little skeptical that Trevor Lawrence is going to be able to also. And Trevor Lawrence's number 1 is what? Christian Kirk, maybe? Christian Kirk or Gabe Davis? Gabe Davis wasn't getting any looks as the number 2, and Stephon Diggs was getting shut down. So where's Josh Allen going with the ball, first of all? And it's not Gabe Davis. If Gabe Davis is not getting looks from Josh Allen, he's not going to get looks from Trevor Lawrence. They're going to come to regret that contract. I am not loving what I'm seeing Jacksonville doing. I think Jacksonville's overreacting to the down season they had, and they're trying to correct that by throwing splashy money, and it's going to bite them right in the ass. I just know it. So I don't love Gabe Davis at 13 a year. I would have been much happier with this at like 3 for 30, like the Curtis Samuel deal in Buffalo. I think Buffalo came away with a victory there. Curtis Samuel will do just as well as that rotational number 3 in the slot wide receiver that Gabe Davis did, if not better, and he's cheaper. So, and then probably my favorite signing so far, honestly, sorry, Sage, it's Patrick Queen to Pittsburgh, man. 3 years, $41 million. I thought for sure, looking at projections for this offseason and how much people were going to make, I thought Queen would push 18 annual for sure. And not only did he sign for much less than that. What? Not even 14 a year. Not even $14 million a year. He signed with the dreaded rival Pittsburgh Steelers, the Ravens' least favorite team in the entire world. He signs with them. And, I mean, honestly, in general, the linebackers signed a lot less than I thought they would. But Patrick Queen still should have gotten his bag, man. He's an absolute stud. 98 or more tackles. Really, in his 4 seasons he's played so far, he's had over 100 3 times and then 98 the other one. And he already plays AFC North football. If you have a team that plays against the AFC North regularly, like the Dolphins, they play a different brand of football in the AFC North. They play such a physical form of football. It is just ugly. You do not leave an AFC North game healthier than you went into it, or as healthy as you went into it. You come out banged up. You don't have to bring in a linebacker from AFC East anywhere else and teach him how to play this physical play style. That is Patrick McQueen. He is a hard-nosed, aggressive linebacker. He embodies what you want in the AFC North. And it's a cheap deal, and it directly hurts your biggest rival. I absolutely love that signing by the Pittsburgh Steelers. Fantastic work by them. Steelers have had a very good offseason so far. And then a last contract I want to talk about today is Arik Armstead to Jacksonville. 3 years, $51 million. God, again, I just think Jacksonville is overcorrecting. They think, okay, we got to do this because we were there, a year ago. We won a playoff game. We had a chance against Kansas City to go to the AFC Championship game and we fell just short. And then this year they missed the playoffs entirely after a serious collapse during the season. So I think they're just throwing money at the problem. That's not how you fix it. That's just not how you fix it. I know the Jags needed interior presence on the defensive line, and Armstead can provide that. But that $17 million a year, I do not like that price tag at all. Back-to-back seasons he's had to end prematurely due to injuries. Getting up there in age, he'll be 31 in November. Really hasn't been a true difference maker on a defensive line since 2021. And you can't say, oh, well, he's being double-teamed because he's not playing next to anybody. The Niners have had one of the best defensive lines for a while now, and he is getting the one-on-ones and not able to take full advantage of them. I mean, they brought in Javon Hargrave last year to take snaps from him. He's just been disappointing. So I don't like that. I think that the Jags are trapping themselves in a contract that in 2 years, unless there's an out in it that I just haven't, because I haven't dove into the contract, I'm just looking at the base numbers, 351. Unless the contract has an out after year 1 or year 2, you're on the hook paying a 34-year-old defensive tackle $17 million. That's not good business. The Jags need to calm down and just slow it down. Know that you've got a formula that can work. It just fell apart last year. Come back to the drawing table. Don't throw a bunch of money at these guys just because you feel like you have to. Feels foolish to me. But now watch Gabe Davis go off for 1,500 yards and Arik Armstead get like a 20-sack season. Watch that happen. But as of right now, how it stands, I don't like those contracts. So, from the first wave of free agency here, the first week, those are my favorite signings and some of my least favorite signings. I'm not going to mention all of them because I'll be here forever. There are some contracts I like. I like the Kirk Cousins deal in Atlanta. I do. Some contracts I don't like. I don't agree with Carolina paying Robert Hunt $20 million a year. That's insane. But I could be here all night talking about these contracts, what I like and didn't like. So these are just a hand-picked few. Let me know if you guys want me to do another video on these, talking about these signings, giving you my opinions. Let me know what you guys think. Let me know if you agree or disagree with what my thoughts are on these. I would love to discuss in the comments. Comment down below. Let me know, hey, I think Arik Armstead to Jacksonville is a great signing, and here's why. I would love to go back and forth and talk about that. So that's all I've got for you guys today on free agency. Stay tuned for more videos about the NFL draft coming up. We're likely to do another mock draft here soon, post free agency signings, including the Minnesota and Houston Texans trade, which shook up the first round just a little bit. So if you're not subscribed, subscribe to the channel, and we'll see you guys in the next one.